Welcome to this session or workshop on self-publishing presented by Six Nations Public Library. I'm Don Lynch. I'm chair of Six Nations Public Library Board, amongst other things, the one and only, I should have said. And with me are other people that have self-published in different ways. So
I'm Penny Warner, and I've published 2 books.
Barbara-Helen Hill, and I've published 1 book.
My name is Barry Hill, and I've done 1 book with lots of colored pictures.
yes, all different things and different approaches, and we'll present them all, and then you can take what you can from each of them, and depending on what your project is, apply what we've done to your project. I wanted to start off by saying there's various ways of printing a book. This was presented, this was a World War I diary by my great aunt, and the family got together and decided to print it. It's called saddle stitching. It's a page folded in the middle, and in the middle there are staples, very simple, and this contains no copyright. It contains no ISBN number because it was only printed for circulation amongst the family. So that's the very simplest way to do it. And then we have Helen's book of poetry, which is also saddle stitched, stapled in the middle, very simple. And then we have, this is called coil binding. It's also known as comb binding. This plastic along here. And the thing about this is a cookbook, and it really lends itself well to cookbooks. It's also got text in it. And the thing about this is it's simple formatting because the margins on either side are the same. You don't have to worry about left page or right page. Very simple, and then page numbers. And I think anybody that's can do anything on Word can probably put this together very easily. The other, this is called coil binding, and you can do this in various sizes. And again, this is like a full-size page. There's a machine that punches holes in it, and then this either metal or plastic coil is put in. This is also good for cookbooks because you can fold it flat. You can open it up and fold it flat. This is a book called Perfect. This is called Perfect Binding. This is what usual trade paperbacks are done this way. It's very professional looking. This is a book that was made by my cousin, and he used a subsidy publisher, which I'll get into later. So I've gone over the type of binding that we can get. Now where to get your book printed. Without getting into the details of how you went about it, where did you get your book printed, Penny?
I just picked a local printer and got them to quote what I wanted printed up, but I did everything manually myself. So like I said, I just approached them directly and asked them the cost and went from there.
Did they have requirements as far as print ready in any way?
Yes, but like I said, I had done everything up to that point myself, so I had it print ready. They do some editing themselves at the printer. If something doesn't quite fit the page size, they will, at least my printer will edit it accordingly and fit it to size, especially with the pictures. I had pictures embedded in it, so that might have thrown the printing off some, but they worked with me and built it into the price of the book.
Yeah, and I think the printing companies are pretty helpful as far as that goes. As far as they want to satisfy you as a customer, so they'll do all that they can as far as formatting, adding pictures, and so on. So
I was surprised how much they did do, because I expected to walk in and just say print it up and them say no, it's not ready or whatever. But they did work with me really well and helped make any changes that needed to be made. They also, once they print it up, they give you a rough copy that you can review to make sure there's no errors. And it's a completely different once it's in the format for you to find any spelling errors or literary errors or such. And yeah, so they work with you really well.
You want to give a plug to the printing company that you found? Because I imagine you've dealt with more than one, or you've gotten price quotes from others.
I can give the name, but they sold after like a couple years back, so I'm not even sure if they're running under the same name. But it was Brandt Printing Services at the time, and I see them still listed online. I'm not sure what the other name was that they had changed to.
Was that?
Oh, Protoprint is another name that they kind of have in brackets after the Brandt Service Press. So. Yeah.
Was that in West Brandt?
I'm not sure what you're calling West Brandt. It's Kenyon Street, just over the Main Street Bridge there.
Over Lorne Bridge?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I was familiar with.
Yeah, they were really good. It was a family run business that had been around for years, and he was really good. I was sad when I heard that he was retiring.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt to shop around and get more than one quote.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of them online that once you start inquiring, they'll start sending you, papers and emails and such, trying to get you to go with them. But you really have to watch who you're working with and what it is that they have to offer, because there's a wide variation in how they charge you and what they charge you for. So
I know Staples does printing to a certain extent. I don't think they do, or I'm not really sure if they do the perfect binding, like in this trade paperback, but I know they do the coil or the comb or Surlux binding with the plastic, and also I know they do the wire coil binding as well. Well, I'm glad to see more than one person is interested in self-publishing.
Sorry, I was late. I was on a Zoom.
Can't be helped. So let me get into my what I've prepared here, and then we'll go around into the various ways of doing things. Mine is probably the most complicated way, but I'll touch on a lot of the key subjects, and then we'll go around and explain the various ways that we did it. This is from my own experience, starting from no knowledge whatsoever. So I'm in the same boat as people that are just beginning. Learn from my mistakes. I wish I had somebody I could have learned from. First is content. Well, you got to have something that you think is worth printing, worth reading. Second and third are equally important. That's the title and the cover design. And why are titles important? Book titles are the first thing a potential reader sees. They should hook your target audience and convey a little bit about the plot and the tone of your book. A good title will generate interest and intrigue readers without giving away too much plot. Let me see. This is my book, and this is the title, The Metal Man, Drunken Pigeons, and Me. I had a whole list of potential titles, and I circulated that amongst people that I trusted, and they were all of a similar theme, because I had a quote in the beginning that I was taking a variation of it. The quote was, "Just as the twig is bent, so grows the tree." So I had a lot of titles that had to do with twigs and trees and bending and all of that sort of thing. Then I found out that there was a lot of books already in print with similar titles and some exact titles. And then out of the blue, this title hit me because, well, I'm in the book. It's a memoir. And the two other things, The Metal Man and Drunken Pigeons, are also in the book. So I put that together, and people said that's the title to go with. So that's the title. And then there's the cover. I might as well use this as an example too. You can certainly do a simple, basic cover with a generic, even no pictures, just a color and the title. My book by the author. And it's pretty dull and not likely to be picked up by anybody. So I think this one, well, I'll get into this too in my talk, but it did everything that I wanted it to do. And then I also have content on the back, because if your book is lying on the table like this and somebody sees the title and the cover and they're interested, and they'll pick it up, and chances are they're going to look at the back to see what its summary is. and they'll read that. And if they like that, then they might start looking through the book, and with any luck, they'll say, I've got to have one of those. So they'll go out and buy it if they can. So as for the contents, I'm assuming you want to produce a book that looks like one produced by an established publisher. You want it well formatted. You should have an ISB number, International Standard Book Number. You can get that free. Google ISBN Free Canada, and that'll take you to the Library and Archives site. And you click on the result, and then you click on where it says apply for an ISBN number, ISBN account. If you choose to publish on Amazon KDP, you should use your own ISBN number rather than the one Amazon will provide, because you have your own number gives you more control. It becomes your property. And you can divorce yourself from Amazon anytime you like.
What's the advantage?
Oh, the advantage of having a number. That's a good question.
It's not an advantage, it's a necessity in order to be put into a bookstore.
Yeah.
It has to have an ISBN on it.
Like the examples I provided here, like
Yes.
this, was to be circulated just amongst the family. That didn't need an ISBN number because it was limited circulation. This one is a cookbook, and it was sold as a fundraiser. That didn't need an ISBN number either because it was not going to be widely circulated. This does have a copyright in there, which is important too, because you don't want people willy-nilly just stealing your information, which unfortunately they do. They do copy and paste now, and there's a lot of plagiarism. So you want to protect yourself as best you can. So there, get a free ISBN number from Canada. In the States, you have to buy them. So we're at a slight advantage as far as that goes.
Just to clarify that the ISBN is not the same as copyright.
No.
They are two different things. So getting an ISBN does not mean that your written work is copyrighted.
Yeah. And if you look in,
What does ISBN mean?
International Standard Book Number. And if you look inside most books, you'll see the copyright page and also the ISBN number. So you want to produce something that looks like that.
You also get a barcode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can look them up online too and do traces.
Yeah, when in doubt, just Google your question. I'd be lost without it. If you want to produce just an ebook, you don't need an ISBN number, so they say. But I got one anyway. When I applied, I got an ISBN number for my print book and a separate ISBN number for my ebook. And so far, I've actually sold one ebook. Somebody didn't want to buy the whole print book, but the ebook is much cheaper, so they bought that. So
Also, with an ebook, you can, and you purchase it, it's in your whether it's on iPad or your phone or whatever, and these wear out.
I know a lot of people that prefer to read.
Mm-hmm.
I personally prefer to read paper, but I know a lot of people like the convenience of having all their books on a tablet or something.
Yeah.
So it's good to offer the option.
I have a cousin that he now lives in Florida. He was in West Virginia and around Washington and that. And he came up for a visit to our aunt, and he had 1,500 in his Kindle, 1,500 books. A lot easier to carry rather than 1,500 of these in the trunk of the car. Yeah.
Now, I touched on the things that you really need. You need assuming that you want to produce a book that people can buy and might appear in a library or something like that, you definitely want the copyright, and you also want the ISBN number. Optional things are a dedication, foreword, and acknowledgments. I didn't have a dedication. I didn't have a foreword. I didn't have acknowledgments. The foreword is usually written by somebody else about your book, And the acknowledgments would be if you wanted to give thanks to the cover creator or the editor or the proofreader or people that inspired you to keep going, that kind of thing. It's optional. A disclaimer isn't absolutely necessary, but it protects you from criticism and even legal action if you get something wrong, even in a memoir. Writerish, WRITER-ISH.com, writerish.com has a good article online. Its title is, Do You Need a Disclaimer for Your Book? I think it's a must for a memoir. Quoting from the Writerish article, it says, out of all the books you could write that cause the most stress regarding a disclaimer, the memoir is it. Because a memoir is a slice of real life from one person's emotional truth or perspective. What one person remembers may be different from what another person remembers. In addition, the use of real people in your book, living or dead, may elicit a negative response from that person or their family, or in some cases, a corporate entity. So just in case, it's best to have a disclaimer. Now, there's two ways you can do a disclaimer. You can do it. It's a formal disclaimer. Let me see now. The use of a disclaimer in a memoir acknowledges that the memory is imperfect, and some people may have had their name changed, or multiple people have morphed into one person. An example of a printed disclaimer for a memoir is, this book is a memoir or based on true events. It reflects the author's present recollections of experiences over time. Some names and characters have been changed, some events have been compressed, and some dialogue has been recreated. That's an example of a formal one. You can also do it as an informal disclaimer, which is what I chose to do. Do you want to hold this? I incorporated my disclaimer in my preface, and you'll see what I mean. I'll read right through to where I get to the disclaimer part. This is my preface. A few years ago, while looking through a family photo album, an elderly relative said to me, "Time is cruel. You slowly fade away until you disappear altogether." When she uttered those words, I didn't fully appreciate her comment, but over time, her observation resonates even more. I tell myself that age is just a number, and that may be true, but only if you avoid looking in a mirror. More than 100 years ago, Mark Twain articulated something that is as true today as it was then. I think he nailed it when he said, "When I was younger, I could remember anything, whether it happened or not. But my faculties are decaying now, and soon I shall be so that I can only remember things that never happened." It's sad to go to pieces like this, but we all have to do it. To anyone thinking about writing a memoir, my advice is to do it. Don't delay. Start writing it as soon as you can, before you go to pieces. I waited so long that the precious details of how something happened or who may have said what to whom have been lost in the mists of time. So, with a failing memory, I have done my best to reconstruct the most memorable events in my early years growing up in the late 50s. You may think that most of those things are trivial and unimportant, but to me, they are precious memories. What's past is prologue, said Shakespeare. If my recollections seem far-fetched or overly whimsical, I can only say that it was a simpler time when people weren't jaded by material possessions and social media, and that's the way I remember it. If my recall is faulty, I chalk it up to climate change. That was a whimsical disclaimer. So formal or... You will definitely need a table of contents followed by a preface or introduction. So what's the difference between preface and introduction? A preface is written by the author and tells readers how and why the book came into being. An introduction introduces readers to the main topics of the manuscript and prepares readers for what they can expect. There can also be a foreword, which is written by someone other than the author. I touched on that. Look at books similar to your genre and see what they include. What about the title, possibly a subtitle? You want to encourage the reader to pick up the book and look inside. There are free AI book generators online. I checked out a few of them, and I came up with some really interesting suggestions. They might give you a title you're looking for, or give you a subtitle. They might tack onto some title that you already have in mind. Bookraid, bookraid.com. Bookraid.com is a title generator. You type in a few keywords, as many as you like, really, like youth, play, fun, nostalgia, things like that, and then it'll generate 6 or 7 different book titles and subtitles. For the most part, your manuscript should include or should use a Times New Roman font in 12-point, double spaced. That's what's commonly accepted. But go to the if you're submitting it to a recognized publisher, go to their submissions page and they'll tell you what they expect. But for my purposes, Times New Roman 12-point, double spaced works. If you've written a potential bestseller, check out established publishers. Some accept manuscripts while others don't. So it's best to check. A lot of them don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. I happen to know a woman who became a best-selling author, and her very first book was submitted, and it wound up in what they call a slush pile. That's unsolicited manuscripts that people send in, and they get some junior reader that looks through them and says, this is rubbish or this is good. And chances are getting it past this initial person are pretty slim. Anyway, this established author had her manuscript rescued from the slush pile. It was published and it became a best-selling book in Canada. So luck has a lot to do with it, or who actually reads your book for the first time. It's all a matter of opinion anyway, isn't it? Assuming that self-publishing is the way for you to go, there are a number of options. There are many companies that say they'll publish your book and get into hundreds or even thousands of bookstores. This is the example. My cousin did this. He went to a company called Friesen Press, and he spent a lot of money. And they promised to get it into 60,000 bookstores. Well, it strokes your ego, but how realistic is it? All of their services cost money, a lot of money. They're called hybrid publishers because they actually do publish a book and sell it on their own website, but they're also what they call subsidy publishers or vanity press. And vanity is the key word there because it's really making you feel good. They're going to publish your book and put it in thousands of bookstores. Oh, and by the way, here's what it costs. My cousin did this. He spent $4,500, and he's told me, I don't know how many books he sold. I don't think it's that many, but he's told me that he'll never make that back. And also, I found out that Friesen Press, anyway, because they sell it on their own website, they actually price it higher on Amazon, and that's where most people go. Mm-hmm. And so, if with a higher price for a paperback book selling for $35 or $40, not many people are going to go for that. There's another a Canadian company.
Explain that. If they're selling it for $50 on their website,
no,
Amazon sells it for $20, or is it the other way around?
It's the other way around. They price it higher on Amazon because they want to drive customers to their own website. And also, I was going to do this research, but with a lot of publishing companies, and I think it works well with the subsidized press as well. If they put your books into the bookstores and they don't sell, they want to return them and get their money back. So you could be on the hook for buying back your own book if it doesn't sell, which chances are it's not going to anyway. So just be realistic about that. The other Canadian company is called Tellwell, Tellwell, and they actually list the prices for their packages. Their bare bones package is $1,400, and their top of the line package is $11,000. And that includes a certain amount of marketing and a website, author's website, and things like that. But again, it's just stroking your vanity, I think, to a certain extent. Certainly, in my case, I had no interest in any of that, and I wanted to do as cheaply as possible. Simply publishing your book doesn't mean people will be rushing out to buy it, but that's where marketing comes in, and that's kind of up to you. You have to go around and have a book launch, go to various places where they might be interested in your subject matter, and you can actually go to libraries and try to see if they're interested in buying your book. But anyway, that's all marketing, and that's up to you. Assuming that you don't want to spend thousands, you'll need to format your manuscript and create a cover. YouTube has dozens of videos on how to format, design a cover, and self-publish. I think I looked at most of them. In fact, I spent weeks and weeks of looking at YouTube videos on how to self-publish, and they all make it look so easy until you actually sit down and start to try it. And if you've never done it, it's pretty intimidating. And if I'd done it successfully, I'd have more confidence to do it again. But starting from scratch, I lacked the confidence to do it. So I looked into something that was more my speed. If you're brave and are really good at computers and deciphering YouTube videos, maybe you can figure out how to do it. But it wasn't for me. I decided to hire somebody to do the formatting. And I learned about Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. And it's a bunch of freelancers that post their what they do online. Go to Fiverr.com and type in what you're looking for, formatting a book or publishing a book on Amazon or whatever it is, designing a book cover. And you'll get all these people, and they have ratings based on feedback from their customers and also what they charge, and they have all their rates. And so I went through a lot of them, and I thought I found one to do my formatting. It was a Canadian woman, and her price was reasonable. And I contacted her, and she gave me a quote, and I said, okay. So I paid to Fiverr, and they hold it in escrow, more or less, until the deliverable comes back to you and you're satisfied, and then they release the money and the freelancer gets paid. But I was really disappointed with the results. And if I had more gumption, I guess I would have protested. But being new to it, I said, well, maybe that's all I can expect.
Was that layout or was that editing?
No, that was layout.
Just strictly layout?
Strictly layout, yeah. As far as editing, that you might want to contact somebody else to help you. I've done enough of it that maybe you as well, Penny, that we've done enough of it that we can edit ourselves. Maybe we can't proofread, but we can edit. So anyway, I went to Fiverr, and my first experience with, and I'll give you this name so you can avoid GABYPD44, Gabby PD44. It was not good. I was really disappointed. So I looked again and found someone to format a print and ebook with unlimited revisions until satisfied. His name on Fiverr is simply SAQIB, and he's located in Pakistan, I found out, but he's fluent in English. I sent him the messed up formatted manuscript, and he says, oh, I see where she went wrong, and he told me all these things. I told him what I wanted, told him the word count, because it depends on how many words and how many pages he'll be producing. And he gave me a quote back as to what it would cost. It cost me $283 to format my print book and ebook, but for me it was worth it because I knew it was done right. I knew I couldn't do it. And he did all of the revisions that I wanted. There's such things, I don't know, hold this. Well, I'll use my book as an example. I wanted the page numbers in the corners as opposed to in the center. I wanted the book title on the right-hand side up here and my name up here. And I also wanted all the chapters to begin on the right-hand page because it looks better that way, and a lot of the better books are that way. And it looks more professional to my eye anyway. He did all those things for me. And we went back and forth several times. He did all the things that I wanted, and I finally said I was pleased, and he sent me back the final receivable, and I said okay, and he got paid. So I know $283 is still $283, but this is my one and only book, so to me it was worth it.
Better than 4,500.
Yeah.
Yes, a little better than 4,500. Yeah. So you need the formatted book before you can get print-ready cover because you need to know the actual thickness. You have to know how many pages and then how thick the book is going to be before they can design the cover. And when they design the cover, it's the whole thing. It's the front, the spine, and the back. So they have to know how many pages in order to get the thickness right. I chose to publish with Amazon KDP because I found it to be the easiest for me. There are pros and cons, and you'll hear both because I know you'll hear both. And you can Google Amazon KDP cover calculator, and it's free. And one of the options that they say is page turn direction, and it makes no sense because when you think of page turn, you think, well, okay, I'm turning from the right-hand page to this way, this direction. But that's not what they're actually referring to is how you read the book. So you want to choose left to right. That's counterintuitive, but that's the way you want to fill that in. And you fill in all the details, and you can download a template. This is you're submitting your formatted book. And you choose the paper, and I chose cream paper as opposed to white because it's easier on the eyes, and I like the way that looked. So when you fill in all these things on the calculator, they'll download a template, which you can take and you can design your own book cover with, because it's got white spaces on the spine where you can put your name and the title of the book, and it's got white spaces on the cover, because you know that you can't exceed that and go outside the limit because they actually trim that, and you want to make sure that you're within the area that's going to be actually printed. While you're watching a YouTube video on self-publishing, while I became acquainted with a company called getcovers.com, GETCOVERS.com. And I found out later that they're actually based in Ukraine, and their price was extremely reasonable. They offered 2 design options and unlimited revisions. I previously had gone to Fiverr, and I got a two-dimensional, two versions of a book cover, and it was exciting to see my book with my name on it, but it really was not. It wasn't good. So I could have done this whole thing a lot cheaper if I hadn't made those mistakes. I got the wrong person to format it, and I got the wrong person to design the book cover. So I finally got the contents formatted correctly, and then I went to Get Covers, and they asked for what I had in mind for an idea, and I said I wanted sepia because it's nostalgia, it's a memoir, it's nostalgia. Sepia seemed right. And of course I gave them the title, and I also gave them a photograph for inspiration. Was a photograph of me standing on the sidewalk in front of the house where I grew up. But I wanted also, I told them I wanted the silhouette of a happy boy. And so they have licensed photographic images, 3-dimensional images, and they came back with 2 examples. One was the happy boy in silhouette, and the other was a happy boy on a bicycle silhouette. And the first time they sent it out to me, the houses were too modern looking. It just did not look like my neighborhood at all. So I told them, tone that down, give me another background. And since it said unlimited, so I kept going back and forth. I said I wanted metallic looking for the metal man. They did that. I said I wanted wavy lines for the drunken pigeons because they're drunken pigeons after all. And they did everything that I wanted, and very inexpensive. Let's see, do I have the price? Yes. Their premium package was only $35 US, and they offered a money-back guarantee. They use licensed images, and they even send you the license. They send you everything. So I highly recommend that. Maybe you can do as well or better on Fiverr, or do it yourself. There's certainly the how-to videos to do that. And Helen will talk about letting Amazon design the cover for her. So there's various ways you can do that. Before you upload your book on Amazon KDP, you should be prepared with a description of your book and some key words that will be used to find an audience. They have a page titled Make Your Book More Discoverable with Key Words, and that explains the subject. Like you want to say nostalgia, indigenous,
History.
and anything. I mean, key words, because that'll help your book be discovered. And then the description. This is I had made a brief description, and I had it as a separate file, and I included it on the back of the book. But you'll need that in advance, because when you're filling in the form to get published, you'll need that just to paste in place. You get to determine the price, and you'll see what the royalty is. You don't want to make it too cheap, because then you won't get very much back, but you don't want to make it too expensive either, because nobody will buy it. So you choose the price yourself.
Is that Amazon POD? Is that Amazon
Yeah.
POD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, print on demand. These are all print on demand. In my mind, this is evergreen. If you go, I think this is pretty well true. If you go to an established publisher, they say, yeah, we'll publish the book and we'll pay you in advance, maybe. But they'll print so many books, and then that's it. And if they don't sell, they're called remainders, and they get destroyed usually. This print on demand, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's evergreen. They'll just, if you order the book, they'll print it, and it comes out in 2 days. It's pretty amazing how they do that.
So with that, the more you order, the cheaper it is, I assume.
No.
If it's this kind, yes, but with this kind going through KDP, it's the same price. It's the same price no matter whether you order 5 or you order 12.
It's the printing cost plus shipping
For the person.
for the
not
person,
for the
yeah.
author.
Yeah.
For the author.
Yeah,
If you want
not the
to order-
retail price.
Right.
Oh, I forgot to mention too. This cover is matte. You get to choose whether it's matte, it's not shiny, or the glossy cover. And I wanted the glossy cover, and they did that for me. So if you're ordering author copies, you can at cost, but you can't get free shipping if you're Amazon Prime. It doesn't work for the author copies. You still have to pay for the shipping. Now, if you make minor changes, say you discovered you want to change a word, or you found a mistake and you want to change something in your manuscript, you can re-upload your manuscript or cover. If you need to make a change on an EPUB file, that's the format for the Kindle version, the electronic book. You can use a free program called Sigil, S-I-G-I-L. That allows you to make changes in this EPUB file format. To change your book in a PDF, you can use a paid program such as Wondershare, Adobe Acrobat, or Soda PDF. I've used Wondershare PDF Element, but I recently discovered 3 ways to edit a PDF for free, which I haven't tested yet. Go to YouTube and search Kevin Stratford, Stratvert, Kevin Stratford, How to Edit PDF Free. And he presents 3 ways to do it, including using, what's the free office program, LibreOffice. So it's all free. Free is always good. So anyway, that's my experience using Amazon KDP to publish my book. And let's start with Barry, because Barry, you don't. Okay. Now, Penny has done.
I have a microphone.
Yeah, Penny has done a similar thing, printing a
Similar
book,
but different.
but I know she doesn't like Amazon especially, and so I'll let Penny explain what she's done.
Yeah, I've done it the hard way. I don't like being controlled, and I don't like somebody having control over my stuff. So it puts a little bit more onuses on the work that I have to do. But in the end, I know that I can print as many copies I want for as long as I want, and nobody has to give me permission to do so, and nobody has to discontinue my book at any point in time. So it gives me complete control. So I did similar steps, but instead of going to somebody that controls the sales, like you did at the end there, I can't even think of the name. What's your online, the online sales per? Amazon. Amazon
KDP.
Yes, instead of going through Amazon, because I seen that CreateSpace was a popular item for that people use to create books online for self-publishing. A lot of people will buy a package that will include layout, cover design, and publication, and then they do print on demand. But CreateSpace is owned by Amazon, and they have their own book publishing section on their site where they do the print on demand and take their cut and control it. When I finished writing my book, I put it on Amazon as a for sale item under books. So I was still getting the exposure on Amazon without the controls on there. But I, like I said, I did everything myself. I wrote the book. The only thing that I really paid for was I had it edited. Okay. My first book was James Beaver, Footpaths Through History. And I wanted to make sure it was done right because there was a lot of history included in there, and I wanted to make sure the footnotes were proper. There was pictures that needed to be formatted around and such, and I had never written a book before. So I hired an editor. It cost me $2,000 to get it edited, but it was really worth it because not only did I get it edited, the pointers she gave me for writing a book and how to structure it were invaluable. So I started out with that. I got my ISBN number also through, you forgot to mention, I was going to tell you, but I didn't want to interrupt. It's actually under the National Library of Canada. So if you look up National Library of Canada online, that's your free service for your ISBN and where you can register your book. I also used Fiverr, but I snitched the book cover layout from CreateSpace because they had a template on there where you could work with it to come up with an idea for your book. I just took the template and I took my pictures, did a layout and picture layout and cut and paste and such, and mounted it on my template and sent it off to my publisher. And based on the number of pages and such, he printed it out for me. You do have to change your page size and such on your WordPerfect or whatever program you're using to match the size of the book that you're going to be printing. So if you want a 6x9 book, you better lay out your pages accordingly to the 6x9 size, and then they will have a better idea of what your pages are. It can vary by a couple of pages here and there, but basically it should fit the same spline for the cover that you've designed that way. And like I said, I did my own marketing. I did a lot of legwork where you go around to small bookstores and approach them for selling your books. And of course, you get a lot of no's because they've never heard of you before. But they're always willing to buy one book. And I found it interesting because I finally got this one bookstore that after hitting so many bookstores, I says, like, how do I get these into bookstores more than one book, He goes, well, you got to look at it this way. It's one book that you get out there. So if you go to 500 bookstores, you've sold 500 books. And I go, you know what? That makes sense because they will buy usually one book. So I did that. I had a couple of bookstores that came back to me and said that people were buying them and wanted more, and then I brought them more after that. But that kind of got my leg in the door for that. So the marketing part was the hardest part that I found. But being that I work in the genealogy group, it put me in the right place for a lot of presentations and meetings and such that I would attend that I could market my books. So I've got 2 of them because this was the story of my great-great-grandfather, and it ended in 1925. And everybody said, what happened after then? So then I had to write a new book that brought it forward, and I had to be careful that how I wrote it because people were still alive and I didn't want to insult anybody or do something wrong. So I wrote it about me, and I incorporated Indigenous history in my story, just the same as I did in my great-great-grandfather's story, and I brought it forward. So using that as my subject matter, whenever I went to meetings and such, I would present this and people would be intrigued with it. And so it gave me an automatic market that way. So you kind of, if you're marketing your own book, you have to look at the purpose for which you wrote that book and use that as your approach for how you want to market this, and you can get it out there better. What else do I need to know? Yep, that's about it for me. Yes.
Did you make your money back?
Yes, more than double. But like I said, the editing was really good. The second book, I didn't pay for the editing. It was more of a storytelling structure, the way I wrote it, as opposed to a historical thing. So I didn't feel that it was in that much need. I did have somebody else do a read through on it and see how it goes, and went from there, and I made some changes myself, but that's where my major cost went. And printing Fiverr, you were talking about, you have to convert your WordPerfect to Adobe for the layout and for them to know how to fit the pictures in and such. And they did that for me, and I think at the time it cost me about $75, and I had no problem with that, to do that. And they will also help you with the cover layout if you need to do so, because there's so many people nowadays, young people that are computer savvy, that hand them your work and pay them. It's a lot easier for them to try to figure out how to work the computer than you. And that's all I did. And like I said, my printer was very good. So if there was something in the layout that was a little bit off, he would alter it for me. He had his own Adobe program that he would run it through and just make the alterations for me. Where the cutoffs on the pictures on the front of the book was, he modified it just a little bit. So he was really good that way. So you could probably get a lot of free services from people that you would normally be paying for in these create space, buy your own package things, which sounds really good because like Don was talking about, it's kind of a vanity press where they're saying, for $5,000 we can do all of this. Well, for $2,000 you can do it yourself, and it's free. So that's what I did in publishing mine.
As far as marketing goes, I was not really interested in having my book in 60,000 bookstores. I wanted, in fact, when I started writing this, I didn't even want to write a book. It was during COVID, and I started writing with one recollection, and that led to another, and that led to another, and another. And before I knew it, I had 54,000 words written. And then I thought, well, there was some more. So I wound up, it's around 72,000 words altogether. And I never thought I was capable of it. But I certainly didn't want to write a book, but I'm glad I did. And really what I wanted to do was have something that's going to be around after I'm gone. And also I want to encourage other people to do the same thing. I think it's important to remember these stories. And in my mind, everybody's life story is interesting. It really is. People think, oh, nobody's interested in hearing what I did. I'm really interested in knowing what ordinary life was like for my parents, for example. I wish I knew. Or my grandparents. What did they do for fun? Who were their friends? What were their disappointments? All kinds of things like that. And to me, it's all interesting. So that was the motivation, and I'm glad I did it. It's done, and I'm not really worried about marketing. Word of mouth, I suppose, will do it.
I might add, there's also free advertising you can get just by making a Facebook page with your book on there. If somebody hears about your book, I've had people come up to me and say, "Where can I buy your book?" Well, it might be in the corner bookstore, my one book, but it may not. But they can find me on Facebook and contact me, and I just send them out a book. So, like, there's a lot of free advertising that you can get online nowadays.
Yeah, and you can do as much or as little as you want. If you're really motivated, like Penny, you'll go to 500 bookstores and sell your book one at a time. For me, I have to go door to door, and if I sell 100,000 more, I'll be a bestseller. But it's a lot of door knocking to do. So I think I'm going to save the best for last. I'm going to save Barry for last because he has a unique project. But Helen,
What?
I wanted you to tell how you did it. Your book was published by an established publisher.
Yep. I don't need that thing.
Yes, you do. Oh.
You had double mic. You were double mic.
You can hold it like a mic too.
I was published by Thetis. I was.
Hold it up closer.
Yeah,
Pin it down.
How's that?
Good.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah, that's probably better.
I wanted to write a book that would help people with the healing and recovery from addictions and abuses. So I had the opportunity to meet a couple of the people from Penticton and Thetis Publishing, and they took my manuscript and they said if I came out there and went to school there, they would publish my book. But I would have to go to school and use the schoolwork as my book. And I did that. I was there for 2 years, and there was just not just the writing, it was also artwork. So this cover is a piece of my artwork. I did the artwork for this. And Thetis published it, and I think there was 2,000 copies. And then when they got to the end of the 2,000 copies, they didn't want to publish it anymore because it wasn't a big enough seller. They were changing into more traditional native stories, children's stories, things like that. So then they sent me on the path of self-publishing, which was to find print-on-demand places. And so I did that. The first original cover of the book was a lot brighter. It was the same artwork, but it was a lot brighter. And this is a result of print-on-demand. And this cover was through CreateSpace, Amazon CreateSpace. I didn't have to pay an awful lot of money. It was a small package. If I was lucky, I paid $200. And I like this cover. I like the pictures because for me, it went with the title. And then I got told by the guys over at goodminds.com that it doesn't really work well because they have a board that goes across, and you can see that part, but you can't see the bottom part. And so they would, people would want to know, well, what is Shaking the Rattle? Is it about? Is it a book about rattles? Is it a book about drunken pigeons? I don't know. Anyway, that's the two experiences with the covers.
Oh, can I just interrupt there for a sec?
And-
They did the back cover, which in my formatting they said you should have about the author, because most books have something about the author. But Helen's book has it on the back cover.
It had in the back was the what do you call those things where somebody is citations, yeah. An elder from Mohawk Nation from Ganawagi, Ernie Benedict, and I had Winnie Thomas, Faith Keeper, and then I had another Cree author teacher out at Penticton, and they were the ones that read the book and then did the and I just put the same things back on the back. On this book, because it was the second edition, but basically the same story. It was difficult doing the print on demand, working with those guys. I don't know if you have to still do that because I haven't done it. When the last print on demand, I went to 3 of them, and when they finished, they were selling their company, and they sold my book along with it, and I got mad and I asked for my book to come back. So they sent it back to me. So I got all of the discs and all of the whatever.
That's another thing, if I can
Go ahead.
interrupt. When you do print on demand, some of them will issue the ISBN number for you.
Yep.
They actually own that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why it's better for you to apply for your own ISBN.
That's right.
So then if they aren't selling the books the way you want them to,
Yeah.
or sometimes they'll run into a problem where there's not enough being sold, so they just don't answer the customers requesting the books.
Yeah.
Then you can pull it and sell it your own way.
Right. When I published through Thetis, they're the ones that got the number for me, and they did all of the work. And when print on demand, when they stopped, I got back everything except for the number.
Yes.
And I just let it sit. I just didn't know what to do with it after that. I didn't have the energy. I was in university, and not only did I get a degree, but I got 2 chronic illnesses. And so through that, after graduation, I sat and I didn't do anything with my book. And then it was just a few years ago, I asked a person we call the comma man to edit for me, and I did the second edition. He's the comma man. He's the chairman of our board of directors here at the library, and he did a wonderful job of editing for me and helping me, because I just didn't have the stamina, still don't. And so I redid it through CreateSpace and Amazon, and it wasn't long after that they said CreateSpace is now going to be KDP, and I felt like I was lost again, like I was being passed on or thrown away or whatever. So I just didn't do anything about it. I just let them do it, and I sell occasionally through here at the library, and I sell over at the Cornhuskdahl store with Betts Dockstader, her store. My books are for sale over there. I'm not out marketing. I used to do workshops and conferences and have books for sale, but when I was in university, this one workshop for women, and I was talking and I went like this, and all I could say was brain fart, because my mind went blank. And I still have that problem with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and it's called fibrofog. It's a nice way. It's not dementia, thank you very much, so far. And I still have those periods of not remembering. So I called Dawn up after I called Betts and asked Betts Dockstader published her book through Sarah General. And Sarah General's company is called
Spirit and the
Spirit
and Intent.
Spirit and Intent. And Sarah and Betts publish their books through there. And the reason I asked Penny about the public printing house was there was a place in West Brant off of Coburn Street East. There's some streets like that. And this guy had this printing press in a garage sort of building. And that's where he printed those books. And I had gone to see him before doing this when I was investigating doing a second edition. And I think that's the guy that she went with too, just for the printing part.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Because there's more than, like Sarah General's got her Spirit and Intent. There's another lady who has a printing kind of,
Are you thinking of like Gisto Publishing?
yeah, Ogisto Publishing is another way. So that if you want to work with them, they're kind of like I think they're kind of like Thetis, except for Thetis is bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Thetis is publishing a lot of books.
And apparently Good Minds does, goodminds.com does publish as well.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways of doing it, but it's not easy. It's exciting because you never know what you're going to find on the internet that's going to help you, or who's going to tell you that, no, you better change that to that. You know, your editor and that stuff like that.
Oh, can I just add to the value of having, the importance of having a copyright and also your own ISBN numbers. It's your property. And I also found out that even though I'm published through Amazon KDP, which KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, you can unpublish from them. And then you can take it back. It's your property. You've got the copyright. You've got the ISBN number. You can amend it however you like. You can take it somewhere else.
Do you have to apply for a new ISBN though? I
Yeah.
believe.
Not unless you make no, because you own the ISBN only if you make changes. It's not Amazon's property.
I understood they own the ISBN, and when you take it back, you have to issue your own ISBN.
No.
Okay.
And so anyway, assuming that you're selling hundreds and thousands of books and it becomes very popular, you want to take it away from Amazon and go to another publisher or whatever. You can do that. But make sure that you have your own.
By that time, the lady that had her book picked up off of the slush pile and became a bestseller, if you're selling hundreds of thousands through KDP and Amazon, some publisher is going to come and pick you up, because there's been a lot of other people that have had that. So just keep working at it.
They're all interested in making money, and if you're making money one way,
Yep.
they want to jump on the train.
Yep.
So anyway, now saving the best for last, Barry has a unique experience, and he has a different kind of a book and a different way of publishing it.
Okay, thank you, Don. Yeah, my book is more on the line of a project than a narrative, and it's more history, and it grew out of notes that I was creating for the tour guides at the Mohawk Chapel. Backing up a bit, I was involved with the Mohawk Chapel for a while, but the organist, which I was happy with, but then I became chair and began to be responsible for everything. And what I didn't like was the notes that the tourism people had given to them by the previous people who were responsible for the chapel. I'm the first Six Nations person ever to be chair. It's always been somebody else from some other part of the world. And the notes were unacceptable. There was too many references to Red Indians. So that had to change. So I picked away at that over a period of time and upgraded the notes. And finally, we said, well, you know, we should do something that as a fundraiser and create a coffee table book that people could buy when they come to the chapel. And that's the intent of it. It's not meant to be a bestseller. It's not, it's more documentation and history and trying to portray information in an acceptable light. And so, as you've been talking about, it's got a preface which says what this place is all about, some background history to set the stage for why the chapel exists, where it is, and then it goes through 80 pages of history with 36 colored pictures and 2 black and white pictures. And that's basically a chapel tour in a book. The only fun part, in addition to the biography on the back, which is getting a bit dated, is author's reflections, which I took upon myself to write as to why I do it, or why I did it, and what it means to me, and hoping that you will see that in the same kind of light. Lots of acknowledgments, references, and documents, and so on. So it's kind of a history book as opposed to a book of original thought and the composition. I'll write that other book someday. Right now, I think everything in my life seems to be pretty uninteresting. So it's 80 pages. I'm looking for the notes that I had. With all the prints now, I did the work on Word myself, and then I contracted with Mixed Media. That's Anne Froman, and she's used to do and still does a lot of work on publishing work, and then charts and books and things like that. And so I took the pictures and I took my text and I said, lay it out, make it look nice. And so she did. So in the end, with the consulting work she did, which was photo editing, layout, several proofs back and forth, mostly on thumb drives, one draft printing, and then she managed the production of the printing with an individual who does printing, and helped me decide on the packaging and the cover and so forth. The pictures I had either in my own personal files, or I had to hire David Moses to take a couple of them, which took all day to make that picture work because of the reflections. And it was in his studio at the old mush hole, which thankfully we were out of there before it rained and the roof fell in, which wrecked his equipment. But anyway, a little anecdote. So we decided on this nice cover, which cost 60 cents more each, but it made it look like a little more of a keepsake. Now, the design, consulting, editing, and so on is a one-time charge, and I've extended the printing once. It's dated 1710 to 2016, so there's a second edition begging to be written somewhere. Maybe somebody else could help me. So that was $1,250 once, which I thought was pretty good. I mean, I have a lot of other things going on, so actually writing it took probably 2 or 3 years to create the notes, as a little bit at a time for the tour guides. And then finally I sat down, took me a winter and a half between farm seasons, and I got it done. And then Anne took it from there and packaged it. And so it ended up, the idea was that we would sell this at the chapel. I didn't get paid per se, it was a labor of love, so I took a tax deduction for the labor. And then it ended up being around $11 to $12 a book, printed for 750 copies. It gets cheaper as you go up. And they were all piled in my bedroom. But so we did 750, and so the final cost came out to around $12.50 each. But we started selling them for $30. And so the money went to the perpetual care fund. So there was the whole idea was to create income for the chapel through this sale of the book. And I didn't get paid for it. I didn't want to be. I just wanted it to work. And since I'm also a treasurer, I want to see income. So that's how we did it. It's I said the research was the most time consuming because it is real history, and I'm sorting through this and that and various stacks of books to get the data information. Yeah, it was pretty well, like I said, putting this together it took like probably over the summer we finally got it printed and ready for sale by September, to around May to September to go through Anne's work and then publish to get it printed and so forth. So his bid number I got, and yeah, and so they say that the design is done, and the next challenge now will be to decide whether or not we go through a second edition, because we had some significant historical events happen that probably should be in the next book. Yeah, that means a new number, right? So that's my thoughts, at least. Thank you very much for listening. But
Three questions, Barry.
Yeah.
Comes to mind right away. You have business contact for Anne Froman?
Yes, I do. It's called Mixed Media. It's probably in my phone. But we just, where'd I put
Because
my
I know
phone?
she did this,
Yeah.
which for family distribution. It was the diary of a nurse. That's my great aunt, Edith Montour. It was her diary, and this was to be, Anne put this together as to be distributed just amongst family members. So we've got Anne, and then I wanted Barry to touch on MTS Native Services, who did the printing.
I don't know if she sent it to MT. I can't tell you that. I use MTS a lot for chapel events. And they do a beautiful job. They've got all my pictures on file now, so I can just say, issue me one for Easter with this date, and so forth. So MTS over here on Fifth Line, they've done some really nice things in terms of not only posters, but
Well, I've been on their website, and they do this kind of coil binding, and also they do this kind of binding as well.
They do binding. They've got a lot of equipment down there in their basement. They will do design as well. Is it Jameson? What's her name? She'll do layout. If you come up with an idea, they do some design layout for you, which is kind of what this was, you know. They come up with the flowers and all that kind of stuff. I'm let's looking up Anne's number here. I just talked to her this morning.
Oh, just a
Her business number, right? Not her first phone.
Yeah. Business number only.
Yeah.
It just reminded me, going back to marketing, I encourage Penny, but.
Oh, I did put this, I said marketing is through the chapel. I did put this with good minds. They haven't asked for another crate yet. But I know people have picked it up there because I did get calls from University of Toronto and others, and they come down and want to do more research and so on. So with the ISBN number and getting it out there, it helps create the kind of contacts you may want to do if you're doing this kind of information.
Does it have an ISBN?
Yes, it does, but it's not copyrighted. So
Oh, no, what I was going to say about marketing is,
info@native. Well, that's MTS. You know what MTS. It's mixedmedia_fn@icloud.com, I guess. Yeah. mixedmediafn@icloud.com. Okay. I'm done. Oh, you got more?
what I was going to say about marketing is travel with your books. You've always got books for sale. You've got a book for sale. You've got a book for sale. I've got a book for sale.
Yes, I always travel with books, and every time I go and do a presentation, I take a bunch with me, and I usually sell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people, when I do a talk on the chapel or any history thing, I have books for sale.
The last thing I went to was with Barry's edition there is I provided the library with one sheet with all of the contacts, things that I mentioned in my talk and that come up here. So if you want to know which websites to go to or what we were talking about, it's all on one sheet, and the library will have that and can print it out for anybody or send the electronic file by email. So I think we've covered the whole range of various ways of doing it. I don't know if there's any questions. For me, when I started out, I was just overwhelmed by the whole process and got a headache as a result. But then gradually I sorted through it, and I was satisfied in the end, and I'm very happy that I have this to show for it.
I don't know if you want me to put a plug in for my daughter.
Oh, yes.
I
Take
could,
advantage of the situation. We've got to plug where we can.
yeah, my daughter is a writer and graduated from university in journalism. She does a lot of writing services on the side, editing and such. She's willing to work with people who from this group that might be interested in submitting something for editing or whatever service you need that's to do with the actual writing. Her website at the moment is being modified, so it's not up and running, but you can find her on LinkedIn. And she's also provided me with her business email. Her name is Teresa Feldner, Felgner, and her business email is tjjkfelgner@gmail.com. And she'll answer any questions that she can help you with on the writing end of things. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and presenting. That's fantastic.